We wanted to welcome in Professor Emeritus at Harvard Law School, Alan Dershowitz. He's also been listening in to today's hearing. Professor, welcome. The idea that these whistleblowers are attempting to prove retaliation in regards to their outspoken views on the FBI, the criticism of it, what would their cases look like? What sort of challenges might they face in proving that?
Well, it's difficult. It's very difficult to prove specific retaliation. It's been done in the context, obviously, of sexual complaints and other complaints. But I have to tell you, I think the Republicans are missing the point. This is not the FBI turning against Republicans. I think the majority of FBI agents are Republicans. And most of the leaders of the FBI, many of whom I've known over the years, have tended to be Republicans. This is all about Donald Trump. The vast majority of FBI agents are anti-Trump, even the Republicans. And it's the anti-Trump issue, the get Trump aspect of this, which is most significant. So I think it's a mistake to accuse the FBI of favoring Democrats over Republicans. I just don't think it's true. It is true that many FBI agents, perhaps most, and certainly the heads of the FBI, are very anti-Trump. And you might call them, the deep state. I don't know whether that exists or not. But the focus, really, the change occurred when Trump announced his candidacy. And there's a widespread feeling among FBI agents and among many in the intelligence community and government, Republicans and Democrats alike, that Trump was dangerous to the national security. That doesn't justify what's gone on. In my book, Get Trump, I argue that these are good people doing bad things. They're doing it because they think that there's a higher purpose to defeat Trump, to defeat anybody that's on his side, to defeat anything that he's done. And they are destroying the Constitution in the process. But it's not anti-Republican, it's anti-Trump. And I think that's a key distinction that has to be made.
I just want to be very clear on this. One of the whistleblowers is Marcus Allen, a former FBI operations specialist who's received Employee of the Year working for the FBI. He had top secret clearance since 2001. It was his quote, and I quote from the former FBI operations specialist, that he said this was a purge of employees with conservative viewpoints. So I wouldn't say necessarily it all comes from Republicans. I agree with you there. We've seen it. But it also is coming from the whistleblower as well. I want to get back to the whistleblower point that I believe one of the Congress members made, Professor Dershowitz, in terms of who is a whistleblower, who is not. Can you explain that to us and why there may be some disagreement of labeling these gentlemen that have come forward as whistleblowers or not?
It's very unclear. Give you another example. People claim that the person who leaked the Supreme Court opinion is a whistleblower. Of course not. That person wasn't trying to disclose government corruption. He was government corruption. He was corrupting the government. He claimed to be, or she claims to be, a whistleblower. It isn't true. It's very hard to define who a whistleblower is. Generally, it means somebody who's trying to expose government wrongdoing and is afraid that if their identity is known, there'll be retaliation. And there's a law that protects genuine whistleblowers, but the term whistleblower is not specifically defined in the law, and therefore Congress makes decisions about who's a whistleblower, the courts make decisions, employers make decisions. There is some unclarity about it, but these folks seem like they are whistleblowers. Generally, they are trying to expose what they believe is government corruption, and they've been retaliated against for doing so. In many of these cases, there is also reasonable basis for what's happened to them, and the real question is the real reason they've been retaliated against what they have legitimately done as whistleblowers, or maybe what they've done that does violate some rules. So often there are gray areas here. And, obviously the Democrats point to the areas that might justify taking retaliatory action, and the Republicans point to the whistleblower aspect of this. Yeah. But it's partisan like everything else is.
And of course, we don't often see FBI whistleblowers, right? It's relatively rare because there is a chance of potential backlash or the overall leaving of the field, like essentially losing your job and ending your career with the FBI.
Sure.
If you could stay on Yeah, if you could stay on the line, we just wanted to keep the conversation going here. Joe DeGenova is a former United States Attorney for Washington, D.C. Newsmax contributor. Victoria Tunsing, former Chief Counsel, Senate Intelligence Committee Newsmax contributor. Michael Grimm is here with us in studio. Joe and Vic, I'll go to you. Just your overall thoughts and opinions on what you heard today.
Let me make an explanation for the viewers about what was going on, as the Democrats are always into process. And I've worked in both the House and the Senate, and I've taken whistleblowers to the House and the Senate. Most committees have their own rules, and the rules are that if somebody is a whistleblower, both parties get to have access to them. And kudos to Jim Jordan for saying, we're not going to have that rule here because a whistleblower doesn't want the Democrats to have access. When I represented Greg Hicks for Benghazi, and we had to sit before the Democrats in a House private committee hearing, this wasn't public yet, the Democrats were so rude and threatening to Greg Hicks that we had to threaten to get up and leave the room. So Democrats like whistleblowers only if they're an Alexander Vindman and they whistleblow against Republicans.
Real quick, Joe DeGenova, if I can go back to you, we're going to take a break really quick, but I wanted to, before we go, Joe, if I can get your thoughts of, again, for the testimony from what you've heard, maybe the line of questioning of what you've heard, what you've seen, and your thoughts on it.
Well, I think this is very powerful testimony by three very sincere individuals who clearly have been retaliated against by any meaning of that word and by any setting in which it occurred. I think this is very riveting. I think it's important testimony, but it shows clearly that the top of the FBI on the 7th floor, beginning with Comey and headed through all the way to Christopher Wray until today, is in very, very bad shape, and that a reorganization and a group of firings is absolutely essential to the restoration of public confidence in the FBI, because as of now, there is no public confidence in the integrity and honesty of the FBI. And that's the leadership. I'm not talking about the people who do the work every day. Everybody's flawed in that category. But at the top of the FBI, the end is here, and it's a disgraceful organization at this point.
I want to add one more point. The FBI couldn't do most of what is being brought out here without the approval of Merrick Garland. Search warrants do not occur, especially of lawyers and the press and members of Congress, without Merrick Garland okaying it. And isn't it sad that there's not one whistleblower from DOJ?